You've probably heard this before, that medieval people never bathed, that they lived in filth, that everyone smelled terrible all the time. But what if I told you that this idea is only half true, and in some cases, completely wrong? Because medieval people cared about cleanliness far more than we usually imagine. The image of the dirty Middle Ages doesn't actually come from medieval people themselves. It comes from much later centuries. Writers in the 18th and 19th centuries wanted to portray the Middle Ages as backward and ignorant, especially compared to their own time. Over time, that exaggeration slowly turned into a so-called fact. But medieval people did not think dirt was normal or acceptable. Cleanliness in the Middle Ages did not mean daily showers. It meant removing visible dirt, avoiding bad smells, wearing clean clothing, and keeping the body in balance. Smell mattered a lot. Bad smells were believed to cause illness. If something smelled foul, it was considered dangerous. So, people actively tried to avoid stench, even without modern science. Despite the myth, medieval people did bathe. Between the 11th and 14th centuries, many European cities had public bathhouses: London, Paris, Cologne, Vienna. You paid a small fee and bathed in warm water. Some bathhouses even offered food and drink. Later, some became associated with immoral behavior, and that is where the reputation suffered. But bathing itself never completely disappeared. Soap was common. Not modern soap, but soap made from animal fat and ash. In Southern Europe, soap production was a major industry. Hands were washed, faces were washed, hair was washed, clothes were washed regularly. Even when people didn't fully bathe, they washed every day. Hands and face in the morning, hands before and after meals, feet in the evening. Eating was done by hand. Dirty hands were not just unpleasant, they were rude. In wealthier homes, guests were expected to wash before dining. Refusing could be insulting. Here's something most people miss. Medieval cleanliness focused on clothing. Linen undergarments absorbed sweat and dirt. These were changed and washed often. Outer clothing was washed less. But the underlayers did the real work. Clean clothes meant a cleaner body. Some medieval doctors warned that too much bathing was unhealthy. Warm water was believed to open the pores and allow disease to enter the body, so moderation was recommended. It wasn't ignorance. It was medical theory based on the knowledge of the time. Cleanliness depended on class. The wealthy had bath access, more clothes, and servants to heat water. The poor bathed less often. They used rivers, buckets, or streams, but they still washed hands, face, and feet. Archaeology shows combs, soap traces, and washing tools, even in poor homes. They didn't live in constant filth. They lived with limits. Medieval cities smelled. There were no modern sewage systems, animals everywhere, waste dumped in streets. But people hated this. Cities had cleaning laws, fines for dumping waste, and night workers whose job was removing garbage. People complained constantly, and that tells us something important. They expected better. So, how clean were medieval people really? Not modern clean, but not filthy either. They washed, they cared, they noticed dirt. The Middle Ages were not a time without hygiene. They were a time with different rules. In the next video, we'll follow a medieval peasant from dawn until night. No castles, no kings, just survival.